You know what they say, if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. Well, Rembrandt actually fixed it. He was inspired by the Italian master Caravaggio himself, the man who made Baroque what we know it today. Shadowy, stark, dramatic. But Rembrandt took it in a way that kind of made it more interesting, more in your face, even in Caravaggio. While Caravaggio depended on heavenly images from the Bible in order to strike you, and sometimes using very gruesome images, Rembrandt used a technique called foreshortening, which makes objects appear like they're coming out towards you. Like this gentleman over here with this huge weapon, and the hand of the captain reaching out, which is a little bit hard to say because of the light reflection behind us. We'll find a better angle. This is one of the more famous paintings in the world, along with the likes of Mona Lisa, the Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, the beautiful painting of Salvador Dali, and many others, Monet. This is along those ranks of the greatest paintings in the entire world. This is the Night Watch, one of the Dutch masters, Rembrandt van Rijn himself, who grew up in Leiden and then came over here to Amsterdam, lived the rest of his life here, painting countless artworks that end up becoming masterpieces. But this one by far is the more famous one. So right now we are in the Rijksmuseum, which is located in the middle of Amsterdam and is the National Museum of the Netherlands. So let me give way for people so they can see it. So this is the Night Watch. And let me show you the surrounding where we're at. So I'm super excited to see this painting. I'm going to show you this painting and the rest of Rembrandt's works within this hall. It's really, really cool. I'm Ariel, this is Urbanist. Let me know where you're watching from. And let me know, what's your favorite painting in the world? It could be Rembrandt, it could be anything else. Let me know, what's your favorite painting? Right now, this is the Rijksmuseum. Admission is about €20. And you do have to get a time ticket, which you get online. It's very easy. And there's discounts for children and students as well. But let's check out the Night Watch and his other works. So hyped. And slam that like button right now. But before actually we get to the Night Watch, it's crazy full with people. Let's read a little bit about its restoration, because it's in this like huge container, which is very interesting. First time I've seen a painting in a gigantic container. The only time I've seen something like this is the American flag in the History Museum of the Smithsonian back in Washington, D.C. because it's very sensitive material. But here you can see that the Night Watch is a 400-year-old painting. It was painted in the mid-1600s. And it's no wonder that the painting shows signs of aging, such as discoloration and cracks in the painting layers. And Rembrandt loved to paint in many, many layers. And of course, that'll crack over time. After 2.5 years of rigorous research, treatment began in January 2022. Meanwhile, the deformations in the canvas have been reduced, and the painting has been mounted onto a new strainer. Oh, wow. Onto a new strainer. Interesting. Look at that. I don't know too much about the nuances of painting, but this is fascinating. That must be a very tedious, nerve-wracking process. Also, I'm going handheld, so I'm a bit shaky. So pardon the handheldness. It's hard to bring a gimbal inside museums like these. That must be a very nerve-wracking job, because you do not want to be that person that erases the face of Jesus in that famous painting. Do remind me of what's the name of that painting, and then try to restore it, and it looked horrible. It's a very funny image. You can check it out. It's probably one of the worst mistakes ever done in art restoration history. So for 2 months, the Night Watch laid face down on a work table in the glass room. Conservators removed 564 nails to detach the canvas from the wooden stretcher. The edges of the 1975 lining canvas were then flattened, and then the wax resin mixture was reduced using heat from spatulas and irons, detaching the canvas from its stretcher and treating the edges of the lining. And then they had to do a retention in order to put that canvas. Wow. CB says we're in the Rijksmuseum. We are indeed in the Rijksmuseum. And this is a replica of the painting, the Night Watch. I'm glad that they put this up because it's a bit hard to kind of get the full essence of the Night Watch with the current glass that they have covering it.
Of both gods.
So this is a copy made by Garrett London's. Wow, in the 1600s as well. Huh, that's interesting. This copy was made shortly after the Night Watch was even made. That's awesome. And I think, yeah, what they're doing, they're probably doing some finishing restoration. So they have it here, but soon they'll go on the wall. And look at the mechanism that's used to put it on the wall. Wow, that is interesting. Look at that. You see Rembrandt's name right up there. And let's go back to the Night Watch. Well, let's see this one first. What's this one? What's this painting? This is Govert Flink. So while the beginnings of Baroque with Caravaggio were mostly about religious imagery, Jesus, or my favorite, the Calling of St. Matthew, breathtaking image. I did a live video of that, located in one of the major churches, Louis IX Church in Rome. And that was a lot of religious imagery. Then the Dutch did the same thing. They had a lot of religious imagery. Even with the Dutch Reformation, a lot of images of the clergy of the Protestant church here. But then by the 1600s, as the Dutch Golden Age was kicked into high gear, the middle class merchants, the civic guards, the militias, the businessmen, and the high class wanted paintings of themselves. So this was the movement of drawing, rather than Jesus and the disciples, they drew civic guards. A lot of these middle-class businessmen actually served as militias on their off hours. And it was a way to protect the city just in case it got invaded again by the damn English, the Spaniards, or the French, or whoever else. So right here. And we saw that with Frans Hals yesterday, with him, not yesterday, 2 days ago. Hals also famous for painting civic guards. But why is this one more famous? Well, first of all, the reason it's even called Night Watch is originally this was a daytime scene. It was intended to be a daytime scene, but Rembrandt seemed to like more the shadowiness, the stark colors. But then also the painting actually started darkening over time. So by about 100 years ago, it got the nickname the Night Watch, because it kind of looked like they were at night. But another thing different from Frans Hals mostly only had men in this painting, most of the time at least. This one actually had a little girl. And while Frans Hals' painting was very even lighting, this has very strong lighting. It's very Baroque. So a good example here, the hand and the shadow it casts on the other gentleman. And Frans Hals mostly had everyone was in focus. Here, what's different is that there's actually a shallow depth of field. So just like if you see a Hollywood film, the people in the front are more in focus, like the captain and his commander right next to him. But everyone in the back starts losing focus the further back you go, like this guy over here. You start seeing less detail of the people in the back. So it adds a dimensionality to it, such as a Hollywood film would do when they use shallow depth of field. Another thing is that made it famous is the actual actions. They are in action. It's similar to Caravaggio, where you see Jesus Christ tumbling down under the weight of the cross, or pointing his finger towards St. Matthew. You know, it's in the middle of the thick of it. Same thing here. See this guy reloading his musket, but you also see right behind it, there's a guy in the midst of shooting. This guy over here, it's a little bit hard to see. You see this guy, the metal, he has like some type of leaves on top of him, but you can see his foot stance. This man is shooting, and the musket is actually grazing the gentleman's hat, or at least it looks like that. Look at that. I think the most stunning thing, and this is something it's really more impactful in person, is this guy, the captain, in the middle. He's actually reaching out to you. Fascinating. The actual hand, if you were to do, there's like studies where they calculate the dimensions of this, the geometry. That hand actually is outside the frame. So it actually sticks out into a 3D space, so to speak. If you were to 3D-fy a 2D space. Pardon my lack of terminology. There's better terminology for that, but yeah, it sticks out to you. Comic books used to end up doing that back in about the 60s and 70s.
Well, he got away with it because this guy preparing, firing, this guy is actually like.
And then the other thing is the muskets all have like lines, and they all follow these lines together to kind of like an explosion of action.
Look at the hand of the captain. Isn't it amazing?
Benajota says it has a great 3D placebo effect. Right. It has that extra dimension to it.
We are fairly sure that Rembrandt did all the faces.
Actually, this reminds me a lot of Jack Kirby, who was one of the more famous comic book artists for Marvel Comics and also DC. He was famous for actually making, back in the 1940s, 30s, and 40s, Superman comics, for example, early Batman comics, were very 2D. So they kind of look like Franz Hals paintings, very 2D. Franz Hals is a great artist. Those guys from the 30s were great artists as well. It was very 2D. So you see Superman like grabbing the car. It's rather, you're facing towards it. You don't feel engaged in it. You're looking at the action. You're not in the action. But then Jack Kirby, by the 1950s or so, or actually not 50s, early 60s, end up doing comic book drawings where, like, for example, the Thing from Fantastic Four is throwing the car at you. And that is fascinating, because that is what happened here in the 1600s. That happened in the comic books back in the 60s, and this happened in the 1600s. It's interesting how history repeats itself with different media. Same thing happened in movies too. Kay says that guide is more or less repeating what you're saying. He overheard everything I said. He's just repeating it. All right, let's check out more. Let's check out from a different angle. I would love to see this when it's fully on display without the huge glass, because these lines of the glass kind of limit the ability to see the painting in its full glory. So look at that. This spear is definitely also piercing at you. Ooh, what's here? A dog. Look at that. Ron says, how much do you think the gum wall in Seattle's worth? Maybe it's as priceless as this. I don't know. It would be weird to ask about security. I don't know too much about it. Yeah, it would be weird if you ask a attendant about security. I wouldn't recommend not doing that, especially if you're like me, filming around. I wouldn't do that. But yeah, there might be information online about the security of the Rijksmuseum. It's not as heavily secure as, say, the Met or the Louvre. The Louvre is kind of intensely secure. The Metropolitan Art Museum of Art too. Who's this guy? So this is Bartholomeus van der Helst, another civic guard painting. And this civic guard painting is a substantial 7.5 meters wide and almost filled the entire wall in the large hall. Kloveniersdolen. Van der Helst did not line up the 30 militiamen in the static row, but positioned the ones in lightest color clothing in the front at regular intervals. The painter included himself at the group at the far left. Interesting.
These guys. I think the dog is really cute. Yeah, me too. Yeah. We have English Springer Spaniel. That's the same color of the scheme as this one. Look at it's called the akimbo position at the beginning. That's this is considered tolerance for portrait with a bit of a Porsche. That's still elegant. I think it's cool. The guy he had at the how realistic the glass were black and was inviting us to drink water. Also cool, I think, is the gesture here to show that you want more wine, and nowadays you probably. Also, is there something else that is? Most black people see it one way. There's a black tape on the way. Very hard. We were not allowed to have shows.
So here we see a boy, African boy right there. Not so common in these paintings. I love that these paintings feel like photos in the way that they're kind of looking at you, like you would look at a camera or the photographer behind the camera. These guys, the eyes is so realistic. Look at that. Wow. Did people paint this, did Rembrandt and other painters like Van Helst paint from imagination, or did people pose? People did pose. Sometimes they posed individually and sometimes they posed as a group. And if you were more prominent, you would have to pay a higher price to the painter. If you were less prominent in the background, for example, that guy spent the least. Yep, and that guy right there. You see that guy? He's a cheapskate. But this guy had all the money. I can't quite tell which ones are group or individual. This one might be individual. If anyone knows details, do let us know. Wow. This is Joachim van Sandraat. Pardon my Dutch. And let's go to the other Rembrandts. So say goodbye to the Night Watch. That was really cool to see. Gary says, I need a yellow cape. Indeed, I mean, the garbs that these guys are using are really cool. All right, this one. I think this is another famous Rembrandt. Yeah. So here's another famous Rembrandt. Wow. And look at the layers. This is really cool. Rembrandt pounded so many layers of paint upon these paintings that it's almost a sculpture. Look at that. Wow. This guy looks like Jeffrey Rush, the actor. I think he passed away a few years ago. I think. Great actor. Also in the Pirates of the Caribbean. Right there, Jeffrey Rush was in Mordor. Lived for hundreds of years. And the eyes they follow you. Almost says he's still alive. Really? Jeffrey Rush? Oh, wow. Might be confused with another actor that was in similar movies. But, oh, that's good that he's still alive. Susie says there's no women in these paintings. Very few. I mean, here's the one with a woman. Another Rembrandt. Ron says it looks like the Quaker Oats guy. Yeah, they had very similar garbs. Yeah, the Quakers and the Amish and the Dutch. Similar fashion. Jay says only man's on pick. Where's women? This was famous too. Lauren says, "Why is his hand on her chest?" Love. It's a sign of affection. Seems to be a couple. So here is the famous self-portrait of Rembrandt himself. Now, as the painter himself, he painted so many self-portraits. It was among the most he painted. It was the subject matter he covered the most was himself. Now, there was a study made looking into his eyes, and they studied all the paintings, all his eyes, and they found out that the eyes are kind of misaligned, and they discerned from his self-portraits that he may have had he was lacking stereo vision. So his vision was very 2D, which actually gave him an advantage in painting because he saw the world more flatter than people would normally see it. At least that was the assessment of the study. Of course, we wouldn't know for sure, and I don't think there's any first-hand accounts of that. So this was a self-portrait, but he was posing as the Apostle Paul. That's interesting. Yep, the eyes follow you. Look at that. Eyes follow you. It's like saying goodbye to a friend at a party that doesn't want you to leave. And I'm like, all right, bye, bye. And they just keep on looking like, no, don't go. Thank you everyone so much for confirming that Jeffrey Rush is indeed still alive. That's awesome too. There was another actor very similar to him, but that's awesome. This is William Dorst. Beautiful, wow. Oh. I thought that was a romantic image, but no, that's a tale from ancient Rome of a man who was sentenced for life to starvation, so he couldn't have any food, and his woman came over, and his daughter came over every single day to comfort him and also to breastfeed him. So it's not quite the romantic scene I thought it was going to be. Edward says, enjoy area. Oh, thank you, Edward. Yep, I finally came to the museum.
Yeah, I swear.
There's more Rembrandts here. Let's check it out. Jay, are those Chinese or Netherlands? Those were Netherlands. Excuse me. Famous region in the Netherlands called Delft. It's known for its pottery. I'm not sure if those were from Delft, but Netherlands is known for its pottery here in Europe. Hey, CB says, I know the painting of this woman very well. Ooh, why is that? Susie says, I would hate to be a woman during that time. Lauren says, BBC did a show here recently. Oh, cool. Michelle says, do you like art? No, I hate it. It's terrible. I'm in agony right now. Get me out of here, please. Please. No, I'm joking. I really do enjoy art. Yeah, it's nice. Especially when seeing something like this. I love especially that this is inspired by Caravaggio, or at least Rembrandt's work is. And I really love Caravaggio. That is probably one of the more stunning pieces of art I've seen in my life, along with Bernini. Even the frames are stunning. Yeah, some frames are stunning. This one is stunning. There we go. Daniel says, wow, stunning. I spent 3 nights in a hotel nearby and didn't go. Yeah, oh, Daniel, I hope you end up coming back. Honestly, if it weren't for Rembrandt, I might not have come to the museum. As I mentioned, I'm a bit kind of tired of going to art museums. But Rembrandt, I mean, that was worth it, I think. For the €20, seeing that Rembrandt is worth it, in my opinion. Even if you just come to see this hall, I think it's worth it. Angela asks, have you seen the show Blacklist? No, I've never seen Blacklist, but that's cool that they feature this museum. They feature a Rembrandt, you mean. Marta says there's a Rijksmuseum tour guide app. Oh yeah, that's awesome to hear. Thank you so much for the pro tip. So yeah, you can rent a tour, audio guide, but that's cool to hear that there's potentially a free one too. This one's very famous. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Vermeer. Vermeer always had a nice veneer on his paintings. CB says the Milkmaid, yeah. This is another Vermeer. Wow, beautiful. I love the look of Vermeer. This is cool. I really like this one. It feels like walking in the Netherlands even today. You don't see the woman with the bonnets, but aside from that, it's literally the same. Wow. Tanita says this looks like a photo. Yeah. Straight up like a photo. I wonder if I can find this street. This is a view in Delft. Zen says that that house is still there. That's so cool. Oh, now I can't wait to one day see Delft. This is Jacob Isaacs van Runsdale. Very typical Dutch scene. I love the look of the sky. Yeah, someone just mentioned, Nick just mentioned the sky is astounding. It really is. It feels like those moments after a storm clears and the sun starts to shine right through the clouds. And people start emerging back to continue on with their daily lives. Wow. Susie says, what picture will you choose? You know, that seascape that Rembrandt did, that unfortunately was stolen at the Elizabeth Gardner Museum. It's probably one of the more stunning paintings I wish I could have seen. Unfortunately, no one knows where it is. Either some rich billionaire that dabbles in the black market has it. Maybe some dude in the basement end up getting hold of it, hasn't told anyone. Maybe it's in some secret Swiss vault or a vault in Singapore, for example. Who knows where it is? I wish I could have seen that. But from the paintings here, I really like that Vermeer of the streetscape. That was beautiful. This is Von Steen, or John Havix John Havix-Steen. There it is. Almost as good that the gimbal gets the morning off after yesterday. Indeed it does, yeah. This is how I imagine the Netherlands. A bunch of jolly people drinking and eating some good bread with dogs. That was exactly the image I had always in my head. And I think this painting captures it perfectly. Look, even the baby's smiling and singing along. Oh, this is such a jolly painting. Oh my god, here's a little kid taking a nice swig of Jenever, which is the gin from the Netherlands. Another little kid smoking a pipe. love this. Ross says, was that a bong? No, that is just a long pipe. Probably tobacco. Most likely tobacco. This guy's blowing an instrument. Seems to be like something similar to a bagpipe. And then here is just a drink. I don't know what the drink is, but since the cup is so small, I'm inclined to believe it might be alcohol, but I'm not sure. So this is Stain. Someone just said it's pronounced Stain. It's called the Merry Family. The boisterous family is making a lot of noise. The father sings at the top of his lungs while raising a glass. The mother and grandmother chime in. The children are either blowing into the wind instrument or smoking a long pipe. The note hanging from the mantelpiece gives away the moral of the story. As the old sing, so shall the young twitter. Oh my God, I didn't know Twitter existed back in the 1600s. What will become of the children if the parents set the wrong example? Oh, I love that. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, the moral of the story is written on that paper. I love that. That's so cool. I can't believe they allow children to smoke tobacco. Oh, these guys are happy too. Oh, I like this guy, Stain. I want to buy bread from this guy. I love meeting a jolly baker. Okay, this guy, I really like this guy. Steen, he's filling my heart with joy. Look, this is so beautiful. I mean, people will talk about Rembrandt, but look at the majesty of this. You have a beautiful scene of a merry family. You have a little picking his nose. I mean, like, that is so real. This is real. This is real life, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my. Look at this girl playing with the little, like, saint doll. And look, a super waffle. And what appears to be bagels or something. Yeah. There's like a bagel there. Ah, raw. He's from Leiden. No wonder. These painters in Leiden, they really know what's up. Hyde says not everyone was Puritans back then. I'm glad. I'm glad that Stain showed a different aspect of life. That's awesome. She has a smile that says, "This is my toy," says Panajotas. Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think that might be what's being depicted here. She's like, no, that's mine. Look at this little kid. This little kid looks like he's a very distinguished gentleman, like a little mini gentleman. And what's the grandmother doing there in the back? What's she hiding under there? This kid is singing from the top of his lungs. We got a shoot. Uh-oh. They're partying very hard. We got some broken nuts. Let's see what the scene is about. This is the feast of St. Nicholas. Ah, that's why you have the little St. Nick. Sorry. The feast of St. Nick takes place here in December. In the Netherlands, it has been celebrated in the same way for centuries. Good children receive gifts from the saint. The little girl in the foreground, for instance, has a bucket full of treats. Right there. Similar to Halloween in the U.S. Naughty children like the wailing boy on the left and get only a switch in their shoe. Oh no. Jean Stain was a born storyteller. He succeeded in incorporating all elements of the popular feast in the picture. Wow. Susie says the boy's crying. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's crying because he was naughty. Thank you so much, Susie, for letting us know. I thought he was picking his nose, but good to know. Angela says, did they do drugs back then? I think the drug back then was coffee was just being introduced in the Netherlands at that time. Tobacco also just being introduced because tobacco ended up coming from North America. And the Dutch already had their hand in North America, so they probably were involved in the tobacco trade. And alcohol. I don't think much more. Maybe some cannabis, but it might have been very rare. Tea also might have been pretty rare too. Tea was seen as very expensive at that time. More expensive than coffee. And of course you have mushrooms, but mushrooms were probably not casually used by families, especially working class families at that time. Yeah, Vance, Jean Stain, really cool painter. I like him. Oh. Let us know who's the favorite you've seen so far on this journey. Angela says that's super interesting. Thank you. Yeah, and of course there's a lot of other psychoactive drugs in Europe, but the other ones that are less known for good reason. They're just very weird and poisonous too. So probably none of the figures in any of these paintings probably use them. This is Frans Hals, who we saw over in Haarlem. Tanya sent 530 stars. Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. CB says opium. Was opium used by the Europeans in the 1600s? That's a good question. I don't... Did they? I know it was very popular in China. I'm very curious. But could be the case. That could be what was on the pipe too. So, yeah, some people did smoke opium via pipe. Oh, wow. This is the interior search of St. Bavo, which we saw in Leiden. In Haarlem. And look at this. Oh, I love architecture paintings. It's funny, it's as empty as the one we saw in Haarlem. Did the Dutch not like chairs in churches? Hey Mika, nice to see you here. These the Opium Wars, but I know about the Opium Wars, but was it popular in Europe? that's what I'm wondering. Let's see, I will look into it, but yeah, I'm curious. This is the nave and choir of the Maria Kirk in Utrecht. Ooh, did we go there? Maria Kirk in Utrecht. Antonio says they're nice Amish. These are not Amish. Amish were Deutsch, were German, not Dutch. Though, as I mentioned, the garbs were similar. Amish, Quakers, Puritans in the U.S., Protestants, Dutch Reformists. So many Puritans were actually Dutch Reformists. They were Calvinists. They used similar garbs to the Dutch. It seems like that was the fashion choice at that time, and also a lot of those religious groups actually stopped here in Amsterdam or in nearby cities like Leiden or others in order to continue off their journey to America. So they probably bought clothes here. And also there was a few cities here that were known for their garment trade. Hyde says, I like the standing only concept, keeping the sermon short and to the point, says Hyde. Touche, Hyde. Touche. Ah, that might be interesting of Calvinist culture. Ross says, no, Maria Kirk was demolished. Oh no, that's so sad to hear. Thank you so much, Raw. Kate says, are you planning to go to the Van Gogh Museum? Maybe. I have one museum I really want to go to. Maybe I'll do a short video on it. It's really cool. There's not one on the top of the lists or not in the guidebooks. So stay tuned. Hey, here's Franz Hals again. The guy from Harlem. Jacob says they mostly drank beer because water was unsafe. Yeah, so Jacob makes a great point. A lot of the drinking you see in these paintings, they wouldn't have been drinking water. Water was unsafe, especially here in the Low Countries, Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. There wasn't really access to natural mountain springs or deep aquifers, like in some places in the world. So, yeah, to drink water from the lake or the river might not have been the best. So they drank beer. And especially in the 1600s, there was such a big issue with public drunkenness in the cities of Haarlem and Leiden and here in Amsterdam that there was actually legislation passed in order to support beer companies to make very low alcohol beer. So 0.02%, sometimes very low, less than 1% sometimes, but up to 2%. They would make those beers, and those beers would be easier to drink, and kids would be able to drink them without getting drunk and quench their thirst, and also have some kind of food, because they would call beer liquid bread. Evalu says his nose is so red. Yeah, because they've been drinking. They're merry drinkers. Look, this guy, merry drinker. Oh, there we go. So someone asked where are the women painters? There is a woman painter here, Judith Leister. Judith Leister must be the most celebrated 17th century, 1600s Dutch female artist. She's best known for the genre of paintings that were clearly inspired by the work of Frans Hals, who was likely her teacher. Oh, cool. She was taught by Frans Hals. This guy. Oh, I can see the similarity. I think the little baby behind us agrees. They were cleared by the... Leicester was admitted to the Guild of St. Luke in Haarlem in 1633 and went to become one of the few women to set up her own painting workshop, where she took on numerous pupils. That is awesome. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. There was a famous female painter from the 1600s. She was, I'm not sure if she's officially considered part of the Dutch masters, but looking at this quality, I would say she's a Dutch master. Let me know, is she officially in the pantheon of Dutch masters? If she's in this hall, I would say yes. Ron says, how is their water compared to Mexico? Mexico has a bacteria that causes issue. And Mexico City is built on a lake, so Mexico has tough issue finding water, and it's hard. They haven't found a way to source that natural spring water nearby. I'm not sure if there's even that many springs. It is mountainous, but I'm not sure about the springs around Mexico City. So yeah, Mexico, unfortunately, and the rest of the country kind of sucks with their water. Probably was the same instance in the Netherlands back then. The issues that you see in Mexico today probably were the same thing that was happening back then. Evalu says there's not too many women painters here. Yeah, any Dutch urbanists, let us know. Is Leicester considered part of the Dutch masters? This was another Frans Hals. Oh, cool. Ooh, cheese. Ooh, that looks good. Some cheese, olives, some grapes. Ooh, some apples and some pears. Yeah, oh, and a piece of bread, some jenever, or probably jenever. Oh, I want some. This is Still Life with Cheese. I love the name. Still Life with Cheese. By Floris Plaz van Dijk. Fruit, bread, and cheese, grouped by type, are set on the table covered with costly damask tablecloths. The illusion of reality is astounding. The pewter plate extending over the edge. Uh-oh. It's on the very precipice of falling down and tumbling over. The Haarlem painter Floris van Dijk ranked among the pioneers of Dutch still life. Lee says it triggers OCD. Fall off the dish. I mean, this reminds me of how I make short videos, or on my live videos I tell stories, and people sometimes leave comments like, man, why are you so dramatic? Why are you emphasizing a little detail? Like people get confused as to why I'm telling a story with drama. And you know, some stories, like a piece of architecture, there's really not that much drama. So you have to emphasize certain words, or emphasize or pauses, or kind of, you know, you have to add the tension. And I like that this painter right here is like, okay, I'm gonna paint cheese, but how can I add tension to this painting with cheese? The plate is about to fall. There we go, adds tension to the painting. So you're immersed into the painting. This is cheese and the fruit and grapes, but it adds tension. You feel immersed into the painting. That is good. Why paint that? For the sake of the tension. Is it going to fall? Is it going to stay stabilized? Who knows? Stay tuned on the next episode of Still Life with Cheese. Oh, is that a meat pie I see? Oh my god. Ladies and gentlemen, we see ourselves a meat pie. And some more jenever. We got some oysters. Oh, hopefully those are not the Mexican oysters that poison me. Oh, someone smoking something? Is that a joint that I see? I like this. And a turkey with a flower in his beak. Still Life with turkey pie. What? This is a turkey pie. Oh my god, I want one. Where can I find one? This is the Flemish painter Peter Klaas. Was just one of the many artists who immigrated to the northern Netherlands in the beginning of the 1600s. This table abounds with luxurious products, among them Asian objects, especially eye-catching porcelain plates, the Nautilus shell, and the pepper. Even the unexpected objects, the presence of Asia is implicit. For instance, in savory pies, which contain such ingredients as cinnamon, mace, cloves, and ginger. Again with the tension plate just on the edge. I think the real tension of this painting is my burgeoning desire and hunger for that turkey pie. That's the real tension of this entire painting. CB says apple pie. No, that's turkey pie. That is a good meat pie right there. Good classic turkey pie, which is actually very rare. Edward says, I'm getting hungry looking at a 400-year-old painting. Me too. 400 years and still making museum goers hungry. I want to recreate this painting but in real life and eat that turkey pie. Heat from Portland, Maine. So this was the hall of the Dutch masters, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. We saw Rembrandt, we saw Halls, we saw Stain, we saw Leister. We saw the guy who just made those beautiful still lifes. I'll show you one little bit, which is the ceiling and the entrance to this hall. Hyde says, is it spice? Yeah, oh yeah, that might have been spice, so that was they were not smoking. Hopefully they were not smoking nutmeg, because then they would be temporarily paralyzed. Yes, nutmeg causes the sensation of sleep paralysis, but fully conscious if you smoke it. So hopefully they weren't smoking nutmeg. But yeah, there seemed to have been spice there. Nick says all natural light? Yeah. I'm not 100% sure. I can't tell. No, not natural light. There's definitely lights here. That might be artificial light, I think. Tom, my English isn't that good. No worries, Thomas. Thank you so much for commenting. And we have people watching from all around the world, so happy to have people comment in their own language, as long as you're not spamming. Lee says to me that was sage. No, as the painting mentioned, was nutmeg, mace, cinnamon, and there was another one. Edward says this is natural light for sure. Really? So the windows are not, they don't have like lighting behind them. That's interesting. Thank you so much, Edward. But here, of course, we have lighting. Ida says, wow, I don't want to lose this live. Don't go. No. Ida, we are in the, I'm going to try to say it very Dutch, Rijksmuseum. It's very hard to say. Yeah, we're in the Rijksmuseum, which is the National Museum of the Netherlands. Can you show the windows? Sure. I mean, we can maybe even touch the windows. No, I'm not going to touch the windows. Wow. So there's a lot of paintings here. I think this is the most important exhibition, is the Dutch Masters, or at least the one that I think will be more entertaining to most people, is seeing this hall, the Dutch Masters. Of course, there's a whole lot of host of paintings here. It's a very big museum. Not as big, of course, as the Met or the Louvre. So I think this is doable in a few hours if you want to see the entire museum. There's also a guided tour. I haven't taken it, but it's cool that they have one. And they also have an audio tour, and apparently they also have an app with an audio tour too. So I do recommend it. Let me show you the floor. If you enjoyed this show and want to lend your support contributions, so I can show you one more month worth of adventures through Europe, vicarious travel. If to you it seems like $5 a month is worth traveling from the comfort of your own phone and home, then feel free to become a patron. Also, I will be sending postcards from Amsterdam. So if you want to receive a postcard from Amsterdam, you can become a mega urbanist. That's $20 or above a month on Patreon, or also on YouTube, which is pressing that join button on YouTube. And that's a YouTube member, same thing. All get bonus content, but if you do mega urbanist option, you end up getting a postcard. If you become a mega urbanist within these next 3 days, before July ends, I will be sending you a postcard from Amsterdam. Otherwise, you'll get postcards from whatever the next location is, wherever it is in Europe. Stay tuned. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep being awesome, and always keep on exploring. Now I'm off to find some turkey pie. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.